Yeah, I know at times you just wish that someone could hear you out. Someone who could just take 2 seconds of their time just to listen and have an ear to listen. Hey yo, what's up? What's up? It's Trevor Young, and I just want to share with you guys about suicide, suicide attempts. As a New Zealand born, half caste Kiwi Pacific Islander background, it's very common here in New Zealand that we have a lot of suicides, a lot of suicide rates. So I just want to share with you guys what's on my heart and some statistics that cover our country with the whole suicide thing. I'm touching on a very sensitive subject, of suicide. And it really saddens me how my own people, every day of this year, or every year, are taking their own lives. They think that there is no hope, no one can't understand them, so they take their own lives. And it really saddens me how my people think like that, So I just want to share with you guys what's on my heart about suicides. Like I said, I'm touching on a very sensitive subject, but the message that I want to get across, and the message behind this, is that to stop suicide happening here in New Zealand or worldwide, but I'm focusing on here in New Zealand right now. I just want my people to realize that there's always a solution for every situation. There's always a solution for every situation. I live in a country here in New Zealand, or an environment, that suicide is very common here in New Zealand. I've had friends, loved ones, to suicide. At one stage of my life, I was a victim to suicide. Just recently, one of my cousins, he just had a mate that just sort of gave in to suicide, and he committed suicide just not long ago, I guess a week ago or something, and he was very young. And it really saddens me how it was just over the little things, that really costed his life. There's more to life than, there's more to life than thinking about suicide and taking your own life by just little things, Like I said, I was once a victim to suicide. I remember at the age of 14, back in 2007, something popped off between my dad and I, and we just weren't getting along, we were just constantly just at each other's necks, just fighting and all that kind of stuff, and arguing. And I remember, something went off, so he drove off somewhere, I stayed home all alone on my own. The first thought that came through my head, came to my head was I'm here on my own. I'm here on my own, home alone. The first thought that came to my head was suicide. I went to the garage and I saw a rope just sitting there, And the first thought that came to my head was there's an opportunity right now to end my life. It'll be a surprise for my dad. He can come home and see me just hanging there. So I saw a rope, and then I saw a chair. And these thoughts were constantly going through my head, was just I'm just gonna end my life right now. That's it. I'm done, So here I was tying the rope to the ceiling, and so it can choke me. And I remember standing on that chair, man, and all what was going through my head or my mind was, this was a great present to see my dad, that he'll come home and just see me hanging, attempting to suicide. So I can't remember what exactly happened that day. For some weird reason, the rope broke, and it was a fail. And then what came to my head was I guess it didn't work, so I never tried it again, You know, I never tried it again. But that was, I can say that I saw death right in the face. You know, I looked at death right in the face. You know, when I was young, since that day, I was constantly having suicidal thoughts. You know, I was constantly, there will never be a day where I was going through this life and suicide didn't pop through my head. You know, since '07, man, like when I was young, since '07, you know, suicide just always constantly went through my mind. But I can say now that I'm a changed person now, and that, you know, there has been some times where suicide does come into my mind, but I know how to turn it around now. I know how to change my situation. You know, I know how to fight against suicide. So I can say now that suicide has got nothing on me at the moment. You know, it's got nothing on me anymore. You know, I'm a changed person. So that's why I want to encourage you right now. If you're going through suicide, man, you know, my encouragement to you is like, don't have these thoughts going through your head, man. You know, so if I can encourage you that suicide is not the answer, man. Suicide is not the answer. You know, what I've learned is that there is only one of you. You know, there's only one of you. You know, we are all made different, unique, significant. You know, there's only one of you that makes the billions of people of this world, right? So there's only one of you. You know, think of the pain, the continuous cries that you will leave behind. You know, the burdens that your family, your parents, you know, your siblings, your friends would have to carry the rest of their lives, man. Is that suicide, man, is not the answer. So if I can encourage you, you know, suicide is not the answer, man. You know, suicide attempts, man, suicide is not a joke. You know, what stopped me from going ahead of taking my own life that day, you know, back in 2007, is that now I've changed my mindset and I think towards my kids now. Like when I have kids, is that I wanna be able to have kids, and like, so that's what stops me from thinking about suicide or taking my own life, is that I want to have kids of my own. You know, I want to have kids of my own. You know, what I've realized is that suicide can be a selfish thing. You know, how about like all the people who are losing their lives daily? You know, in this world, that innocent people are losing their lives. You know, think about it. Innocent people are losing their lives. You know, they're getting murdered. You know, homicides around, or other things that impact our world. You know, just think about that before you take your own life. Is that that suicide can be a selfish thing at times. You know, innocent people are getting killed. You know, for no reason at all. You know, innocent people are getting killed for no reason. You know, that saddens me, man. Is that you'll be selfish enough to take your own life, but you don't think about the people that are losing their life, if I can put it like that. You know, straight up, there is far better things in life, in this life right now, than, you know, thinking about taking your own life. You know, taking your own life. You know, there's better things to live for than to die for. You know, there's better things to live for than to end your life. You know, just because like something never worked out, like a relationship wise or something like that, you know, suicide is not the answer, man. Where's that gonna get you? You'll be no longer in this world, you know. So, you know, here are some statistics that I want to share with you guys here in New Zealand. You know, these statistics are here in New Zealand alone. So I just want to share with you guys that, man, is that, you know, the youth suicide rate here in New Zealand alone is higher than any other countries. You know, a timeline or a time frame, you know, from 2002 to 2004, you know, check this. You know, New Zealand is the second highest male youth, you know, to suicide. You know, that's pretty high, man. You know, the second highest in the world. You know, male suicides alone. You know, and we are here in New Zealand the third highest female rates of 14 developed countries. 14 developed countries, man. Well, that's pretty high. You know, female and males alone. You know, that's pretty high, man. 14 developed countries. That's crazy, man. You know. What I've realized before is that I did a survey, and I didn't realize that I was suffering through clinical depression for quite a while. You know, I was suffering with real deep depression. You know, and I scored a real high rate in depression, man. And yeah, that's pretty scary. Is that I did not know that I was suffering through depression. You know, depression is something that it's not to laugh for, man. You know, it's a serious matter and it's really out there. You know, just like domestic violence. You know, the subject here, suicide alone, is not a joke, man. You know, it's a serious matter and it's sensitive, you know. It's a sensitive subject, you know. And it's a serious matter that leads to suicide, you know. No one cares about you, you know. That's the thoughts that constantly go through your mind when you're thinking about suicide and all that kind of stuff, you know. I'm talking from experience, so I'm not talking a whole lot of caca. You know, I know what I'm talking about. It's because when I was going through depression, you know, and suicide, leading up to suicide, you know, that was constantly going through my head, is that, you know, no one cares about me, you know, I'm not wanted, you know, I'm always rejected, you know, no one loves me, I felt unloved, you know, and it just constantly ticks through your mind, man, suicide, you know, like it was, like, you just feel like you're not worth living for anymore, you know, is that no one cares about you, you know, and that's what saddens me right now, is that a lot of youth, a lot of young people, a lot of teenagers right now are taking their own lives just because these thoughts are going through their head, constantly going through their head, man. And yeah, I remember when I did a survey, apparently, you know, I scored pretty high in depression, you know, and my results were like major depression. I scored very high in that, you know. Dysphoria, high moderate, you know. Bipolar disorder, I scored slight. Cyclothymia, I scored slight. Seasonal affective disorder, high moderate, you know. So I scored very high in depression, very, very high. And you know, you got to realize if you are suffering through depression right now, you know, or suicidal thoughts, that it's a serious matter, and that there is people out there who can walk with you on this journey. You know, there is people out there who you can actually trust, you know, that you can actually trust, and that they won't judge you, man, and that they will walk this journey with you, you know. So that's my encouragement to you, to anyone out there right now who are going through depression or suicidal thoughts, man, is that there is people out there who will care and love you for who you are, you know. If you need help, man, turn to someone who can understand you, you know. Turn to someone who can relate to you, and instead of judging you, they're there to walk this journey with you. So that's my encouragement to you, man, is that suicide attempts, man, it's not the answer, you know. It's not the answer, you know. There's more to life than suicide attempts, man. You know, what I've realized now is that the most common situations why people take their own lives, the most common situations why people end their own lives, you know, check this, you know, unhappy family relationships, you know, family violence, inability to communicate with parents, you know, bullying, drug and alcohol abuse, you know, peer pressure of their groups, you know, self-destructive acts for peer acceptance, you know, to be accepted to someone's crowd, you know, loss of peer acceptance, you know, loss of romantic attachments, you know, relationship breakups, you know, that's very common here in New Zealand, you know, very common how a lot of young people, a lot of teenagers are taking their own lives, you know, especially males, just because, you know, they just broke up, or they check their girl, like, cheated on them, man, is that they think that suicide is the answer, So that's what I want to share with you guys, is that, suicide is not the answer, man. Goal frustrations, fear of, man, will I make it to the future? What am I going to be doing in the future? And all that kind of stuff. Will I be successful? Will I be a failure? Lack of communicating services for Māori and Pacific Islanders alone. Someone that is understanding, The reason why people take their own lives, or young teenagers, is because they find it hard to communicate with someone, instead of someone judging them, instead of stepping in the gap, standing in the gap with them and be like, yo, I'm here to help you, what's going through your mind, that's exactly why people are taking their own lives now, it's because there is no one out there who can understand them, instead of judging them, is there to, be there for them. The most common suicides here in New Zealand I witness alone in my own country is, life is not working out, relationship problems and breakups, giving up, low self-esteem, being called useless, good for nothing, worthless and hopeless, you'll never be anything in this life. That's constantly going through our teenagers' lives here in New Zealand, man, is that they've been called by their parents or whoever, man, like, yo, you're useless, you're good for nothing. I can say that I'm talking from experiences because I've been in that situation. I was once in their shoes, when I felt like I was useless, I was good for nothing, man. And financial problems, drug overdose. Suicide is very serious, it's a serious and it's a sensitive subject, and it's constantly increasing every day, worldwide. But alone, I'm here to talk about my own country here in New Zealand, the place where I grew up, the place where I was born, and the place that I will die for is my country, New Zealand. I'm here to talk to you about the crisis that's, constantly repeating here in New Zealand, risk factors of suicide here in New Zealand, mental health problems, stress and adversities, childhood adversity and family characteristics, biological and genetic risk factors, social risk factors. New Zealand has one of the worst suicide statistics alone here in in the world. Here in the world, New Zealand has one of the highest suicide rates. New Zealand has one of the highest rates of youth suicide in the OECD. 11 New Zealanders taking their own lives every week. Wow, I'm actually surprised that, and I'm shocked to find out the statistics and the rates of my own country. Young teenagers or males or whatever, or grown men or grown women are constantly taking their lives every week in my own country, man, and that there's nothing that anyone is doing about it, So that really scares me. New Zealand suicide toll is 350% higher than the road toll, sorry. So 350% higher than the road toll. So it's constantly saying that there's more suicides than road accidents. There's more suicides than the road toll itself. People dying on the roads in cars and all that. More New Zealanders at the age of 25 die from suicide than from all medical cause combinations. Suicide, man, it's really crazy how New Zealanders, us Kiwis, at the age of 25, man, that some of us don't live up to our 25th birthdays because suicide has got through their minds, man, and that they end their lives, for no reason, man, and it saddens me, man. And I just want to share with you guys my heart, suicide attempts, man. You know, suicide, at the age of 10 to 14-year-olds, increased by 60% between 2007 to 2010. It's sad to say that there was a 5 to 9-year-old, 5 to 9-year-olds are thinking about taking their own lives. They're thinking about ending their own lives. New Zealand's youngest known suicide victim was at the age of 6 years old. How sad is that? I can never imagine my 6-year-old, thinking about taking their own lives, thinking about ending their own lives at the age of 6. Just think about, your 6-year-old son or your 6-year-old daughter, or your 6-year-old, sister or brother, thinking about taking their own lives, man. That's way too young. That's far too young. The number of youths taking their own lives has increased by more than 40%. And the suicide of a child under 9 years old, has been recorded for the first time. 2005, New Zealand alone, 20% male suicide death rate of 100,000 males in this world. 27% male suicide death rate of per 100,000 males of this world. Young women here in New Zealand, from 2002 to 2005, we're in the top 3 most highest suicide for women alone. We are the 3rd in the world, man, the 3rd country in the world of women suicides alone. Suicide rate of Māori and a Pacific youth rate, are 70% higher than any other New Zealand Kiwis, any other Kiwis that make New Zealand. Māori and Pacific youths are 70% higher. So that says that, us Kiwis, us Polynesians or, Māoris, we're thinking about more suicides than the average, Kiwis, the average white people, Pākehās, Palangis, us Kiwis, us Māoris and Pacific Islanders, it says that, we think about suicide more than any other Kiwis out there, that make up New Zealand. It really saddens me, man, that my own people are thinking about taking their own lives daily than the average other Kiwis, man. The statistics are high for my people of Māori and Pacific Island cultures, man. And it's sad because how I'm a half-caste born Kiwi. I'm a half-caste New Zealand born, I'm a Polynesian half-caste New Zealand born, and I'm proud. I'm a proud Kiwi, man. And it just saddens me how Māori people, as well as Pacific Islanders, think about taking their own lives daily, daily, man. The most common age for Māori and Pacific people to take their own lives, is scaled between 15 to 19 years old. 15 to 19 years old, our young people are taking their lives daily. New Zealand has some of the worst suicide statistics in the world alone. People with unemployment increasing, taking their own lives. People with no jobs thinking about taking their own lives because it's like, they find it hard, they find it hard to support their family or whatever because there's no jobs, no opportunities that come, So we need to make a change, man. We need to make a change. And if I'm speaking to the government or if I'm speaking to anyone else out there, who have high authorities, we need to make a change, man, that there is not much opportunities, here in New Zealand. You wonder why our people end up going to Australia, because there's more opportunities there. There's more income there, So some things that really need to make a change, man. From 2007 to 2008, 500 people died from suicide. 2008 to 2009, 531 people died from suicide. 2009 to 2010, 541 people died from suicide. 2011, 558 people died from suicide. Total lives taken over 5 years. The total lives over 5 years has taken, 2011 to 2012, 547 people died from suicide. The total is 1700, and increasingly are taking their lives daily in New Zealand alone. That's crazy, man. That's honestly like mind-blowing and overwhelming that our own people here in New Zealand are taking their lives daily, man, daily. So it's just like our family or our friends are thinking about taking their own lives, man, daily. 74% of all suicides in New Zealand were males. 74% suicides alone here in New Zealand are males alone. So it says that males are constantly taking their lives more than women. And I strongly believe that, living here in New Zealand in an environment where suicide is common, I strongly believe that us males are taking our own lives more than our women are. So things like that need to make a change, man. 15 to 19-year-old age groups increased from 56 to 80% in suicide rates. The most common method of suicide is 61%. Was by hanging by the rope, followed by poisoning and drug overdose. Think of reasons to live for rather than reasons to die for. Reasons to live. Improving the young person's ability to connect. Develop life coping and problem solving skills. Develop the ability to learn from mistakes. Develop intelligence. Encourage positive friendships. Work on hobbies, creative interests, and as well as talents and gifts. Increase ability to access resources and these key roles for these young people. For Pacific and Māori people, first of all, the government should come down to our level, the level of my people. You can be on the highest chair, you can have a degree and all that kind of stuff, but if you're not doing your job, you ain't nothing. If you're not coming down to my people, our community, and like looking at things to make a change, then you ain't nothing, man. Develop the capacity for empathy and self-motivation. Develop a sense of personal compassion. Develop cultural and spiritual beliefs. Develop the ability to parents by giving situations or environment. Develop a sense of purpose, of missions in life. Develop a greater knowledge based on our people, the Māoris as well as Pacific Islander people. The statistics are pretty high. Now what can we do in this situation? What can we do to make a change here in New Zealand? What can we do to improve on getting things a lot, coming in together and becoming one, improving unity here in New Zealand, If you are someone who is suffering with depression, suicidal thoughts, or know of someone who is, there's always a room for help, call out for help, speak out. I know it's hard, but there is real people, real genuine people out here in New Zealand as well as in the world, that who are understanding and that who will care for you and be there for you. It's a matter of finding the right people who can relate to you and help you through the situations, help you on this journey and walk with you on this journey. So that's my encouragement to you on suicide attempts here in New Zealand. Suicide is not a joke. Suicide is a very sensitive, and it's a serious matter. It's a sensitive subject as well as a serious matter. If we can look for solutions, rather look at the solution rather than the situation. If we can make a change, then I believe that New Zealand, will become a far better country if we solve these situations that are happening. Why suicide is very high in New Zealand. In closing, I just want to share with you guys that there is people out there who can understand you, and who can walk this journey with you, and who can help you get through it. Someone who knows exactly what you're going through or exactly how you feel, like myself. I was once a victim to suicide, and I told you that. I was once a victim to suicide. I wanted to end my life. I had suicidal thoughts. But have someone who you can trust, who you can who you can lean on, when the going gets tough, man. And before I finish, I just want to say thank you to those who took time out to hear what I got to say, on suicide attempts or suicide, the subject suicide. I just want to say thank you, from my heart, from the bottom of my heart, that, that you took time out just to hear me out, So I thank you and I salute you, and I honor you, and I thank you so much, So before I close, I just want to say that there is a place for hope and compassion, Before thinking of suicide, think of those who you will leave behind, Think of those who have to pick up the pieces, the shattered pieces, that's left behind, the mess that gets left behind, Think of the pain, the brokenness, split up family as well as your parents. Think of the mess that gets left behind. People who love you dearly, gotta pick up the pieces, man. Gotta pick up the mess that got left behind, when you're gone. Ask your peoples today, I challenge you right now, and my question to you is ask your people if they are alright. Ask your peeps, man, your surroundings, if they're alright and they need to talk to, if they need someone who they can talk to, be available and accountable to their needs, shower them with pure love, pure love. That's all this world needs, is pure love. We live in a desperate world, a devastating world, a desperate world who wants to find love, who needs to find love, and acceptance, But it's sad how some of us, how we look past that, and that we don't see that the world that we live in is in a desperate cry, or is in a desperate need, So my challenge to you, or my question is, ask your peeps, man, if they're alright, ask them if they're alright. The thing is that we don't know what goes through their minds before they think about taking their own lives. We don't know what was in their mind at that particular time, that led up to suicide. We will never know. There could be millions of things that trap our people today. There could be millions of things that they may be going through that they bottled up inside that led up to suicide, So my question is, man, and my challenge to you is, ask your peeps if they're alright, or if they need help, to talk to someone who they can trust or lean on, or someone who can understand them, just behind closed doors, man, we don't know what goes through their mind. So I just want to say that, show them compassion, man. Have compassion for these kind of people, who constantly have suicide thoughts, man, or suicide attempts, There's always a problem that matches up to why they want to take their own lives. You just got to find it, man. And, there is hope, help is available. Talk to someone who you can trust, someone who will understand you and won't speak down on you, but be there and walk with you on this journey, be there for you, Or you can turn to other facilities and resources, as well as Youthline, Lifeline, or Helpline, or What's Up, People who are suffering with depression as well as suicidal thoughts. It's not a wimp to speak out. I guess, and from my heart, the real wimp is the person who doesn't speak out, who bottles it all inside, that there is help right there, but you're sort of too stubborn to go out and, and use these people, be like, yo, I need help in this, That's what troubles me now, is that, our people, they don't look for help, man. They're not out looking for help, that they bottled it all inside, and then that's when suicide constantly ticks through their minds, man. So yeah, my challenge to you is look for help, man. Go out and look for help, and do not bottle it inside. Before I close, here's a word to John Key. John Key, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And all due to respect, I respect you for everything that you've done for us Kiwis here in New Zealand. But what I want to say right now is that this is your country, man. Your people that make this country. You as a leader, as the head of this country, who lead our people, who is the Prime Minister of our people, should see what's happening and look for something to fix this. Instead of splashing your money on unnecessary things, splashing your money on things that is not needed, Innocent lives are dying every day. Suicide is not a joke, man. We need to make a change here in New Zealand. We need to look for a solution. Why our people are dying, man? Why our people are taking their own lives, man? The statistics are pretty high here in New Zealand alone. Someone had to speak out about the subject, and me, I'm more of a leader than a follower. I'm more as a leader than a follower, so I feel it was necessary for me to speak out on the subject, on suicide. We needed someone to speak out on suicide, man, and to see what the haps here are in New Zealand, So I felt the need to speak out on the subject. I just want to say that, there is hope. Let's walk this life together. There is hope. Let's walk this life together. It inspires me to inspire you. Be inspired and stay blessed, man. And peace, love, and respect. Suicide attempts. Suicide is not a joke. Suicide is a sensitive but a serious matter, And yeah, and I just want to say thank you to those who took their time out to hear me out. Thanks.